Hello everyone, and thanks for joining this channel. I always like sharing, and this week I want to share my thoughts regarding learning modalities and the current and what is there for the future. Now, fast forward several decades ago when I was in school, I had a blackboard and we used chalk to write on that board, and of course we were organized in rows, and of course we had number of students in that class with one classroom teacher. Now eventually I moved to college and that was the same, and then I moved to United Kingdom, England that is, and I realized there was a subtle shift taking place. Now I started my degree with Open University back in United Kingdom, and I realized that they did have distant learning. Now I was at my home, someone knocked at the door, and of course I realized that that was a shipment of books that I would receive for that semester. And I would study, go down to an area, have a tutorial, and eventually I would do an examination. Eventually this somewhat changed over the years. I realized that online version came. Fully online, yes. So you move from the face-to-face to the fully online course that you could access content, download, and of course upload your assignments. Now, it's important to understand that people have been always trying to look at different modalities. So in 2006, I came across a situation where the university that I was working at decided that they would build a 3-story building for the education block. And while they were building, someone in the area complained regarding the height of the building and their privacy, and stated that individuals from our building could look over into their yard if the building was allowed to go forward. Subsequently, they had to stop building the 3rd floor. You know what happened? They found themselves without classroom spaces, and that is when the thought of having an approach where some students could work off campus at certain time and then some would come on campus emerged. That was the rationale for their blended learning design. Would I say pedagogical? Not at that point in time. There was no pedagogy in making that movement forward. However, it served the school in allowing them to be able to do that. Notwithstanding, I must say that that institution, they had what it was called a support person who told us the best way forward in making our discussions. So that is when the pedagogical part came in, when they realized that that had to be addressed. And that person was really helpful. Kudos to that person who really helped me along the way. But students did not even understand where to find information regarding the blend, but over time, they accepted it. Now, people blend for various reasons. They have reduced seat times because of, as I stated before, parking. It could be an issue that they don't have classroom spaces, or they just want to offer greater flexibility to students. And I think flexibility is important. Now, when we look at blended learning and how it is coming about at this point in time, we can see that COVID-19 pushed us to another limit. It pushed us to an area that we could say, all right, you know what? We have to blend now because we saw what was happening. We could not accommodate all students in the same class, in the same space, at the same time. Therefore, some students would go in class sometimes, and then others would do the work online. And that allowed us to really survive. So therefore, the issue for me is, what is the future of blended learning? Are we going to continue to use the definition of, let's say, for instance, it must have a physical presence to have that blended approach? And I go back in time. I go back in time to 2015 when someone asked the question. I was facilitating a blended MOOC with roughly 2,000 individuals in, and someone asked the question, do we have to blend in a physical form? You see what I'm getting? And I said, well, to be honest, definitions are kind of moving towards a physical presence. And the person said, but I see my blend as something that I can use technology to blend. So my physical presence is when I have my live sessions online. Wow. Wow, are we going to that place at this point in time where we can see that to blend can also be blend with video, live video presentations and communication based on the video world that we are in now, the immersive video? Are we saying that we can blend using technology? That's a thought that many institutions are fearful to go, because after all, they build their big buildings, right? And if they go blend with technology, who is going to occupy these big buildings? So that's a thought. So I think universities will generally hold off that definition because it's dangerous. You have built these buildings over time. Therefore, defining blended learning without the physical presence could be problematic. So therefore, if we move away from that sort of thought and we look at technology and see how it's moving on, where would blended learning be in 2030? Will it look the same way? It won't look the same way. I think there's going to be a movement towards immersive learning, and that is when we talk about the metaverse. The metaverse is going to create that space, yes, that space where students can put on a headset, they can go into a classroom space virtually, and they can actually see the teacher delivering that session and interacting with their peers at the same time. So, do you see what I'm saying? How will the metaverse change how we define learning modalities? Can we say the metaverse will be another learning modality? I think as educators, we now need to think about what is coming our way. So face-to-face, online, blended learning, the metaverse, who knows? But I guarantee you that the metaverse is going to create that space where individuals are going to have this immersive sort of engagement, and this is going to really change the world. Do I see the elimination of a learning modality? Certainly not, because I think and value all three, and I'm going to add the fourth, the metaverse. You know, I'm going to add the metaverse. So we have face-to-face, online, blended. Let's put the metaverse in, because I think that is a point to think about too. And when we think about the importance of all of them, we can see they're relatively important. The metaverse will, yes, offer that virtual space that you can engage in. You can go and see that immersive scenery. You can do so many things in. But I think there needs to be a concept of the importance of social presence as it relates to certain courses. I've always said this. The virtual world is important. Yes, augmented reality, mixed reality, and of course, pulling everything together within that metaverse is important. But I dare you, I wouldn't want a doctor who has done only online virtual course and their competencies in the virtual world to be operating on me. Certainly not. So I think there's a call for the valuing of modalities throughout. The same is, if you are doing a course that requires observation, for example, in a courtroom, and that sort of observation requires a psychologist to look at behavior and that sort of thing. Can you replicate it in a virtual world, augmented reality world, or even a mixed reality world? I would say no. The physical presence is required there. There are some things that can be done effectively online with the blended space as well as in the metaverse, but you need the physical presence. Which brings me to another point. How will we assess? How will we develop content? There are so many things going on that we must consider. But I want to say, as we look at blended learning and we look at the way forward, let's not define blended learning within the context of a physical space only. Because the technology is somewhat pushing the definition towards the use of technology to aid that personalized presence that was required in that definition. I'm sure many people are thinking about this, but as I say, the verdict is going to be out shortly because the metaverse will be another learning modality. Notwithstanding, I think I still want all 3+1, and that is going to be face-to-face, online, blended, and of course, the metaverse. It all depends on how you deem your course. How do you want to execute your course, the course competencies, the objectives, and how you're going to assess. And as you think about all these things, that's when you start to think about technology and how best it will work for you. I am Rohan Jowallah, and I'll continue to give you information regarding my thoughts, my critical thoughts regarding online education, inclusion, and of course, a little history some of the times. Take care, and I look forward to you joining me in the future again. Remember to subscribe and share the content. Those are my critical thoughts for this week. Goodbye.